Did you know that up to 75% of the food produced in Nigeria yearly is wasted? Well, that's according to a 2017 study by the United Nations. This waste is typically due to challenges that farmers face with processing, storage, and transportation. Today, I'll be speaking with Uzoma Ayogu, the CTO and co-founder at Releaf, an African startup that's trying to solve these problems by providing digital solutions for small-scale farmers. My name is Hachi, and this is Zero to Scale, a video series where we talk to founders like Uzoma about how they build their startups from scratch. Uzoma is a bit busy right now. He's upstairs and we're just waiting for him. We're at his place and we're waiting for him to just get done and join us so we can learn a thing or two about how he built Releaf alongside his co-founder from scratch. See you on the other side. All right, yes, I am finally with Uzoma. I feel underdressed, first of all. His native is making me feel very bad. Like I should have brought one of my really nice natives.
It's the great Zero to Scale. I had to come in my best, my Sunday best.
You had to scale your outfit for us.
Exactly.
Give us the top of the line.
Always.
How are you doing though?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm really glad to be here with you.
So I've read some bit about the work you've done at Releaf. It's pretty interesting, right? Because no shade, but it's almost always fintech. with startups, it's almost always fintech. Mm-hmm. And to learn about an Agritech startup that is doing, working with small-scale farmers and doing what a lot of people, myself including, would consider very impactful work. It's astonishing, right? It's mind-blowing. But I want to know, why Agritech? Why not fintech?
Yeah, I think people look at us like, oh, look at your backgrounds. Why aren't you in fintech? I think if you look at when we started Releaf 5 years ago, even doing tech in Africa wasn't so hot or sexy. And so it was, now it's like, oh, fintech is blowing. So a lot of people want to do it because it's blowing. But at that point, it was fundamentally about what problem is important to you and you want to solve. And when we looked at even the Nigerian flag, green, white, green, those greens are actually for agriculture because that's when the naira was $1. Can you imagine? Because we had strong agriculture. And if you look at how countries became typically from poor to middle income, it's by making agriculture work. So fundamentally, even the name Releaf, it was like so take us back to when agriculture was strong.
When leaf was strong.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
So that's why, we just started problem first. What problem do we think we can spend our lives working on and that will make the most impact? And agriculture, fixing agriculture in Nigeria and Africa was really the answer.
Now, you said something interesting about your background, and people see your background and say, oh, why not fintech? So tell me a bit about what you did before you did Releaf.
Yeah, absolutely. So me, myself, I was studying mechanical engineering, but at the time, I spent some time working on jet engines at GE Aviation, but I was supposed to go work at Microsoft and be a product manager there on one of the enterprise teams.
What happened?
So, well, Releaf happened. I told my parents, yeah, I have this offer, Seattle, 6 figures, no tax in Seattle. They were like,
better man than me. I'll be in Seattle right now. Right now.
And I told them,
cutting checks for startups like Releaf.
And, my dad was like, well, when I was your age, the person in charge was in charge. And now, look at where you are and the same person's in charge. Things haven't changed as much as you think. Better go into Seattle. Yeah. But I'm so happy I decided to pursue Releaf. Yeah.
What was the process that led to you deciding, oh, we want to build something that looks like this?
Yes. So people are typically like, oh, like you don't really have a background in agriculture. And I think in some ways, not being like an entrenched player in an industry sometimes allows you to look at it from a even more creative, exactly. Just from a first principles perspective. We had the initial idea for Releaf. And it was a far more, I would call it like typical software solution. We have supply, we have demand, get the supply, digitize it, get the demand, digitize it, and just connect them. Don't be involved. So that's we got into YC with that.
Very interesting.
Yeah, but once you try to actually go to market, we realized that if you're not a player in the value chain, your solution's not going to make sense. Just like Apple tries to own the whole stack, if you want to deliver excellent to your customers, you actually need to be involved. So we had the idea, got into YC, we were on top of the world. when we started having to actually make transactions on our platform, things started not going so well. And
what year was this? What year was
this? Was 2017. This is May through August 2017. So I had an amazing learned so much at YC, one of the first 10 African companies. So us and Helium Health were in the same batch.
Yeah.
And then got back to Nigeria in September 2017 and got met with a rude awakening. And we basically had to rework our entire approach to the market.
Okay. So I think a lot of what you said was really high level, but let me reiterate it, and you tell me if I got it correct. So this was the initial idea for Releaf. There is demand for certain agricultural products, maybe from outside the country or from
inside
within the country with FMCGs and big companies, right? And then there was supply side where there were like farmers who had this thing, but there was a challenge with farmers getting to these big guys. So the initial idea for Releaf was, we'll just build some software, have a supply side where as a farmer you can maybe register.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, just register
exactly.
And say, I'm supplying X.
Yeah, I have X quantity. Let's say I have 1 ton of cassava. Somebody's looking for 10 tons. You aggregate the 10 tons on the platform.
Yeah.
You connect them to each of them one, and you leave them. And you leave them to finish the transaction.
I can just imagine how bad an idea it is.
Absolutely.
But okay. So I mean, so that I don't take away from your story, what were some of the challenges you discovered when you decided to run this?
So one, people don't actually have what they say they have. that one is quite common. Two, it's not at the quality it needs to be.
Okay.
Three, people struggle with logistics, so actually getting the product to where it needs to be. That was one where we actually got really excited about because we felt that there was a real opportunity there, but we had to do some more learning until we figured out how to solve it. And four, payment. And so, do you have it? Was it being produced? Is it of the right quality? Can you actually get it to me and enough of it? And then can the payment process be seamless? And so those are kind of the 4 layers of the stack. And I think somewhat also the volume. So that's similar to do you have them?
Do you have
same
it?
amount? Yeah.
You weren't always in Lagos, were you?
No.
These days you're in Lagos.
Yes, I would say like 50% of my time.
Okay, so but Releaf wasn't always headquartered in Lagos. You were first where? So
we were living in Aba. That was like start of 2018, and we were commuting between Aba and Ikorek Pene. That's in Akwabom. So we used to take an hour car ride there, and then we fully moved to Akwabom late 2018, and we lived there for 3.5 years. So like most of the time there for 3.5 years.
Okay.
Team is a bit bigger now, so now I could be more here, but I still spend a lot of time. I just spent the last 2 weeks in Cross River. Akwabom was like our base for 3 years.
For 3 years.
Yeah.
Was it a business decision? Was it just, or did you not just like Lagos?
Lagos has its pros and cons. Essentially, when we got here, we were living in Opebe, and the reason for that is it was near Ojota Bus Park, because we were like, okay, we need to learn about agriculture, and we need to learn about the problems, and not just by doing phone calls, hearing about bad transactions. We literally need to follow the process from farm to middleman, to truck driver, to factory, to payment. So basically what we did was we would have people who had initially signed up on the old platform, and they would tell us...
Was this after YC?
This is after YC.
Okay.
They would tell us that, hey, I have 10 tons of cassava. And we'll tell them, okay, do you have a purchase order from a buyer? Which is a buyer saying that I will pay this much money for if you bring me 10 tons. And a lot of them would say, I have the purchase order, I don't have the working capital to complete the order. So we tell them, hey, I will give you the working capital. In return, you let me see everything. You open up the kimono. So I would literally, people that I met on WhatsApp online, I don't know them. I'll jump in a bus, go to Benue State, go to Kogi, go to Ekiti, meet them. I will follow them to the farm. I will watch the harvesting process. I'll see how they weigh the crop. I'll see how they load it onto the truck. I'll take note of all the costs along the value chain. And we did that across 8 different crops across 20 different states in Nigeria. So when we're in the bus, don't say anything.
Why? Why did you say anything?
Come on now.
Your accent is
and at that time I was very naive. Like, if what I know now about Nigeria, I don't know if I would be entering those buses so free.
Yeah.
It was like an adventure for us. We just came from school.
So you're fresh out of school when you started?
Yep.
You said you did a small stint at Jet Aviation.
Yeah, so that was my summertime during
Okay,
still in college.
So
yeah.
fresh out of school.
Yeah, straight.
First time founder.
Yep. I mean,
Wow.
YC was really helpful because it accelerated like
Your
a learning
learnings.
curve. Yeah, but we learned a lot of painful lessons by just making a mistake ourselves.
Oh, wait, so did you get into YC with an idea? Or was there like...
So we had, I guess we had a lot of businesses on our platform, but I'd say we were pre-revenue very early. In fact, YC didn't even like our idea. They said these founders are working on something that is not sexy, which proves that they fundamentally care about this. They seem very talented and they're ready to get rid of a lot of other opportunities to go after this thing. So we believe they will like run through walls and figure out a way to make this thing work.
That's cool. So
Yeah.
it was more your motivation.
Yeah, that they felt that you guys have capacity. The market you're working on is huge and impactful, and you can build a big business. I think the way you're approaching it now is not the right way, but the market will teach you that, was their perspective.
So YC took you guys in and just threw you guys to the wolves?
Yeah, they said, let the market humble you. And the market, especially this market, will humble you.
That's incredible. That's incredible. What were the early days operations outside of traveling to talk to all these people? From a business point of view, what were operations like early days?
Yeah, so we used the riskiest assumption to test framework, RAT. Essentially, what are the 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 things that if these things are not true will kill your business? For example, if I'm Amazon and people don't want to buy books online, then my business doesn't work, right? So focus on, without using any money, proving that people will click a button and you send them a book. For us, we first had to figure out which value chains did they exist the most pain in those like 4 problems. So that's when we looked at all these different crops, and oil palm ended up being the value chain that had huge, massive amounts of domestic and international demand, huge, massive amounts of supply coming out the ground, but extremely disaggregated and very poor technology infrastructure, completely under-invested. And so for us, it said, okay, we want to go into value chains where demand is unassailable, we know it exists. Supply side, the problem is not enough is coming out the ground, but the problem is there's a bottleneck in terms of technology. And then we also wanted to go into a supply chain where the cost of experimentation was not going to be too high. So at one point we were considering cassava versus oil palm, and we realized that we could run a more efficient experiment around, can we make more efficient deshelling technology in oil palm versus more efficient preservation technology in cassava. So that's kind of, once we figured out, okay, we're going to be in oil palm, we actually set up a very small palm kernel oil mill, like smaller than the room, like this room.
Where?
Like in Ikorekpene, in Akwabam.
Akwabam, okay.
Yeah, we got scammed. We had to chase this guy in Oka, had to call DSS.
How much did you get scammed though?
At that time, it was a lot of money for us. Like, that would have been like maybe 1.3, 1.4 million naira.
Imagine for a small business. It's like,
Yes, it was cash.
and the dollar was still...
Yeah, it was 360 now.
It's 360.
Yeah.
That was a fair bit of money.
Yeah, so we set up a very small like palm kernel oil mill, and that was basically us trying to be our customer. Can I get enough raw material to feed my small factory? And I realized like, wow, once these farmers crack these nuts, they become so much demand for them. But before they're cracked, there's no demand, and the cracking process is like very slow. It's a big bottleneck. And that's when we realized like, wow, food production in Africa is fundamentally decentralized and disaggregated, but food processing is still centralized. It's like the European, the Western model is big commercial farms, central farming, but that doesn't work for us.
Because
and so,
farms are like,
are small, and so that was like a light bulb, like, wow, we need to build the supply chain technology infrastructure that can deliver food security because it's decentralized. And so that was like, okay, how can we begin with a hardware and then the software that sits on top so that we can actually create a food processing industry and supply chain that is decentralized first to match our food production system. That was the only way we could make enough, and essentially what was coming out the ground can get to you who's sitting in Lagos or anywhere else.
It's awesome. One thing that strikes me about your process is there was a lot of experimentation
Huge amounts of experimentation.
and deep thinking.
Yep.
Because
And pain.
and pain. I can imagine. Because I don't think I've heard of any other founder that ran a small
Yeah, like a
small factory.
Yeah.
Just
Just to test and learn about the market. Yeah.
When you started, you were like, you just wanted to, and correct me if I'm wrong, you just wanted to like solve for the entire chain.
Entire
Regardless of
value
what you were
chain,
selling.
multiple crops, everything. And then it was like, pick one crop, pick one region, and pick one part of the supply chain.
Yeah. And that to me sounds like a pivot. Right? So
I say evolution. But sure,
okay,
pivot.
fair. Because one of the things I'm also looking to see with startups is I understand that fundamentally at the very early stage, a startup is an idea.
Yeah,
right.
you're gonna-
And I'll say is a theory that you think a certain thing will work, and then you test that against the market,
And then,
the market gives you feedback.
exactly.
And you either alter that a bit, right, or alter it to fit with market realities, or you go under. Right.
It's simple. Simple.
So one thing I'm trying to learn from a lot of the founders that I talk to is just how they're able to interpret data they got, right? And how many times they had to go through that process.
Yeah.
'Cause I understand that it can be iterative. a
It
couple
must
of
be,
times.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think Bezos says this thing that I love. He says, stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the process. And so you have to have, we used to say North Star and next step. So be very clear, this is your North Star. You want to make agriculture on the African continent work and deliver food security. Now, the way you do that, what's the next step you'll do that will take you closer?
Closer,
Yeah, and so it's like very big picture and then it's very tactical next step. So fundamentally, and we had a conversation with a couple of YC founders, and Shola mentioned this, that essentially your job as a startup founder, especially if you're VC backed, is to grow. Grow, sure, sustainably, but grow. And you have to understand what is the most important metric for your business, and you need to say, how do I grow this metric?
That's my next question, actually.
Okay.
What's the most important?
Okay. Fundamentally, when that metric is not growing, and you try another way to grow it, you try another way to grow it. So this is when you're pivoting, right? Because the metric should match the North Star. It should be proving that you're getting closer to that thing. And once you run out of ways to grow that metric, and you're not listening to the market, it might be time to, yeah. So
Saving grace.
you have to, yeah,
Saving
exactly.
grace.
Yeah. For us, we have $75 million in orders, right? We can't match all those orders, but that's the amount of demand we have. And so our main metric is how good are we at turning the supply and the farmers, the relationships that we're building in the crops, we're purchasing from them, turning that into product that meets the demand of our suppliers. So very simply, like ARR, annualized revenue run rate.
Analyze revenue run rate.
Yeah.
ARR.
Yeah, well, run rate is like run dash rate, so it's one R. One word. Yeah.
Can't get that when I'm a founder.
Yeah, so that's our most important metric.
All right. So your ARR is your most important metric. How many times have you had to pivot to
Keep on growing
keep
that.
on growing that?
Yeah, I would say so. The pure like software play. Then there was you can call it invoice financing play. That was more to learn, honestly. Then there was the call it Kraken 1.0. So make Kraken work. It's patented. It's working. And then we start thinking about, okay, beyond the hardware, and this is more of, I'd say, evolution. What are the ways that now you're a player in the value chain and you have the right technology? How can you be really thoughtful about delivering that technology in the right place? So remember, I said production is enough coming out the ground. I said quality. I said logistics. I said payment. So Kraken focuses really on quality.
Yeah. Tell me about Kraken.
Yeah. Okay. So Kraken is West Africa's best nutcracker. Nutcracker. It's 200x faster than the existing process for turning palm nuts into palm kernel, and it's able to make customers that take our end product in Kraken 10% more profitable on a gross margin basis because the quality is so much higher. So 200x faster, better quality is what Kraken delivers. It's optimized for the different species of oil palm that we deal with the markets, the poor moisture conditions. And so that's what Kraken does. So it fixes the quality problem, and it fixes the issue of our palm nuts being from many different trees, many different places, many different quality types. So that's quality. But then you still have the production is enough coming out the ground, and then the logistics piece. And so that's where software comes to play a role. And so even the evolution in saying, okay, we have the full tech stack. We have the hardware. Now we need to know, where do you actually put the hardware? So we're constantly collecting data from our farmers on how much are they purchasing, how many tons is coming from this area, how much did it cost for us to move that from there to there. And then we're building now geospatial technology that will allow us to say, okay, Kraken needs to be in this place, and Kraken needs to be in that place. And actually taking Kraken from a completely static paradigm to one that's portable. And so that's truly decentralized. So I think...
Is that something that you have now, or?
That's something that's in the next 6 months we'll have.
That would allow you to be able to move Kraken across
Exactly,
states,
because exactly.
across farms?
Work essentially across what we call like processing zones. So you want to be the highest density places, exactly, during seasonality that happens, right? Because what you don't want to happen, and what is a challenge is, oh, I've put down this technology, it has to sit here, and for the other 9 months or 10 months of the year, you're not getting optimal pricing. But if you have the ability to essentially move Kraken from different places, then, and that's fundamental, right? You need to be decentralized for a decentralized production market. And so that's really where our thinking has developed and gone.
You're solving a very hard problem.
Yep.
And you're creating very, for lack of a better word, because I want to rhyme a bit, hard solutions, right? It's not lack of a better word, I want to rhyme, like hard solutions in that they're not easy to mimic solutions.
Yep,
somebody
which
cannot,
is very important.
Yeah, somebody cannot script your
Yeah,
website
just,
and create Kraken. It's not going to happen. That's good. How many will I say versions of Kraken do you have now?
Yeah, so we have one flagship version, and I mean we've grown over 5 million ARR with just that single
with just that one.
With that one,
wow.
Which is what tells you like the potential that exists. And so I'd say the other thing that's really important to note is there's a high moat, so high barrier to entry because of the hardware.
Okay.
And then there's very interesting economies of scale that can be produced on top of the hardware. So the farmers become honestly a form of our customers. So because they trust us, a lot of people think technology is the hard thing. No, trust is the hard thing. You can build a beautiful app, but if people want to use cash, or if people prefer to call, you know, they don't trust you, they won't use it. So because we're already working with them, solving their biggest problem, they don't have to spend hours cracking these nuts, then we can do things like, we have a health insurance product, we've partnered with someone to offer them health insurance, we have a financing product. And so all these products that typically farmers the customer acquisition cost per farmer is typically too high relative to the lifetime value of the farmer. So like CAC to LTV. But because the lifetime value of the farmer is much higher because we get their crop, then we can offer them services at a marginal cost. And so we increase our take per farmer and the value given to farmer, and we can essentially become a platform for people to access the farmers in our network. And for us, it's not necessarily about making a ton of money off those services, but making the farmers more loyal. Because if you control the most upstream part of a value chain, you control the rest of the value chain. However you feel about Dangote, he owns a cement business because he owns the limestone mines. So if I fundamentally have the strongest relationship with the farmers who control food, I fundamentally control and can enable the rest of the value chain.
That's smart thinking. I'm going to copy it. I don't know what industry I'm going to go.
Yes, that's a good framework to use, right? You need to own one niche of the value chain, and then you verticalize alongside it.
All right. So we're going to move on from this section of the conversation to a different section where we're going to play a game.
Okay. I love games.
Okay.
I hate to lose.
That makes two of us.
Like, do you love to win or do you hate to lose?
I love to win.
Interesting.
Yes, and I hate to lose.
No, there's actually a difference between the two.
I'm not a sore loser.
Okay, so you love to win.
Yeah, I love to win.
Okay.
I love to win. So yeah, stay with us. We're going there next. I will play him in a game that you'll find out in a few minutes, or a few seconds. But then I'll also be asking you a couple of questions that we'll entertain while we're playing.
Okay.
All right, see you. So I am in. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm laughing because I've been threatened. Well,
Who have you been threatened by?
I'm in Uzoma's living room and we're apart, about to play a game of FIFA.
Full disclosure, I haven't played FIFA consistently for like 10 years, but I still love the game.
I haven't played FIFA constantly for like 20 years.
Okay. See this guy.
I'm just saying, we all have our full disclosures here. I'll also be asking him a few questions. There's some very interesting stories he's told me while we were setting this up. Let's start the game, and I'll distract you with the questions. So
yeah, exactly. Otherwise, I'll have my full focus. Let's play now.
Just for clarity, he is Real Madrid.
Because of Benzema, Ballon d'Or.
Okay, this is my time to distract him with the question.
You're quiet when you're attacking.
I know, right? This is my.
Well done.
That was close.
Best keeper in the world. Who's injured already?
Wow. Okay.
I haven't had any questions. And it's Ballon d'Or. Hey, Karim.
Okay, this is where we go into stage 2, distraction mode. So, Uzoma, why are you laughing? I'm being serious here.
Yeah, I'm listening.
So you got into YC. Let me pause the game.
Okay.
You got into YC.
Now you don't want to play.
No, we'll play. I just want to ask my question.
I'm listening.
We'll play. We got into YC in 2017.
Yeah.
And Kraken, your flagship product, didn't launch until when?
January 2021.
January 2021. So there was like a 2+ year.
Yeah, I mean that's
Wilderness
3.5.
gap.
Yeah.
How did it feel during that time? How did you manage?
Yeah, we were all of us in our Kenneth's uncle's living room, mattress on the floor. We had to
Post YC.
Post YC.
Post YC mattress on the floor.
Humbled.
Wow.
Keep burn low.
Wow.
And people are like, I had people like, just go back to US, do your thing. But honestly, I ask people this question all the time when they want to found something. Like, with all the options you have, if like everything that you're working on went to zero, like, would you feel like it was a worthwhile thing and you love the people you're working with? And if the answer to that is no, don't even start the company. Like, be prepared that you actually want to change the way the world looks, and that like your current state of things is like just temporary. So we always thought this is just temporary. And now when we look, we have over 150 team members, like I said, over 5 million ARR, like, patents in the pipeline, new software coming out, great global investors. But all of that felt like, at the time, it's hard to maybe imagine that, but we had confidence that we'll find the solution.
At the time, you got some bad press.
Yes. In fact, I was like, you guys are so unforgiving. In fact, I was scared to do any press for 2 or 3 years.
So just before we played this, before we got here, Uzoma shared an article with me, a 2018 article, where a publication that will not be named listed 3 startups that were going to die, that might die by 2019 or before 2019 if they didn't do certain things. And the first startup on that list was Releaf.
Yep.
How did that feel internally?
Honestly, reading that, I said like, guy, you don't know what we're going through, you don't know what we're doing. You're now saying that we're going to die. I said, God forbid. Wrote the article, have the author's name still. I said, we'll prove you wrong. You know that they say the best revenge is massive success. And a lot of like successful founders have kind of this chip on their shoulder that like, you will see. You will see. My results will speak for me. So honestly, that was always like, we don't want to do any press. Like, let's just focus, heads down, execute, and then we'll focus on
what were the things that made you, because it's not normal that a startup has like, what I would say was a 2-year wilderness period where you're trying to find a real solution. So what things that made you, didn't you have investors breathing down your neck?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't take on that much capital, and we also worked with like just mostly angels. And honestly, people probably forgot, oh, here's 5K. Oh, Releaf, they're not blowing. Okay, forgot about them. and you just focus on continuing to grow. Then you show some progress, you go back to people, say, here's progress, maybe they give you some more money. Once you take a lot of money from VCs, then you're on the hamster wheel. The clock starts ticking. But I think we took those angel checks from people who believe in you and trust you, because then people can give you that time to learn and figure out what you want to build. Because honestly, if you take VC funding too early, you'll scale into nothing. So it's much better to have confidence on and get closer to product market fit and then put fuel on something that's working.
It's working.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys went from being like dead to being, you guys are like the Lazarus of Nigeria's tech ecosystem.
Yeah.
Pronounced dead.
Oh, I prefer the other person who rose.
Lazarus is the popular one.
Yeah, there's
Well,
another
you guys
one.
are popular now.
There's another one. Oh.
That one's the popular. That's why I don't remember them.
After 3 days now.
Oh!
No, I'm joking.
If you don't get it, forget about it.
Yeah, forget about it.
All right, so let's continue. Jay. I have my dignity on the line.
Nah, you must go. Courtois.
I feel like I might have underrated you. Because this is not going as I planned.
Vinny.
If that had gone in, I'd have protested.
Me as an Arsenal fan, I never get happy too early, waiting for injuries to collapse on season. Nice.
We're back in this. Back like we live.
Next.
All right, so my next question is about your future plans. You've come back from the proclaimed dead. Yeah, I mean, we now know that you were not dead in that time. There was serious underground work going on.
Yep.
But what does the future look like for Releaf?
Yeah, so I think what we've figured out is fundamentally, like, look at what's happening in the global supply chain and food system. All these companies or these countries are saying, well, I don't want to export products anymore, wheat, even oil palm products. And so like the future is that African countries and African nations, we need to figure out how to make our own supply chains work. We need to stop like importing products. We need to better leverage our food systems. And so Releaf wants to be a pioneer for actually how to make that happen. And there's really only two ways to make food processing profitable enough to like maintain food security. The first is have the best yields, and so that's, we have the right technology. And that's Kraken. The second is to minimize your logistics costs. And so that's what our new product, our software product Site, is able to do. We're able to take all the data we've gathered, week after week, month after month, in terms of yields of our farmers, even looking at weather patterns, and then using road networks and say, this is the logistics cost if I set up in this place, and this is how much money I expect to make. And as a result, this is where Kraken should be. And so Site is the product that's going to be able to basically we figured out one part of the puzzle, which is the best yields in the industry, and now the other part of the puzzle is being able to minimize logistics costs to maximize profitability. So Site is really like going to help us achieve that. And actually, in the process of us doing that, we've been able to kind of finish out some of the milestones for our seed and begin prepping for our Series A. And so we just closed a pre-Series A round with some great existing investors and some new investors. And so we're really excited about the future as a result.
That's good. That's good. That's good news. That's good news. You're doing more than coming back from the dead now.
It's the next level, though.
Yeah. That's so good.
So we really think fundamentally, in the next 2-3 decades, we have to figure out food. Otherwise, it's either famine or we can become the bread boss of the world, and it can literally be our most lucrative and exciting the most lucrative and exciting export. Like this is literally how Asian countries went from poor to middle income and now innovating on the global scale. They figured out their agricultural supply chains, they figured out their processing supply chains, and so we're really excited to figure that out in an Afrocentric way, the way that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm really excited by obviously by Releaf, not by the goal that is scored. I'm definitely looking forward to what you're doing, because it appears like Releaf is what we want to see with tech companies, which is very deep embedded tech, right? You're doing hardware technology that is changing the way, hardware and software technology that is changing the way farmers process their crops.
And the way the products move through the value chain.
And essentially just helping us extract a lot more value.
Exactly.
From
Yeah, like there's so much wastage that happens, and literally, if we cannot make the value chain work the way it's supposed to, we'll never achieve food security, and the continent will not get where it needs to be. We can honestly develop, this is no shade, the best payment infrastructure, the best, but if people cannot eat and we cannot drop the cost of food down, people are spending over 50% of all their income in Nigeria on food.
On food.
So,
Biggest expense.
yeah, I can't think about healthcare, I can't think about education if I can't feed myself. So for us, this is like the most important problem that needs solving, and we want more people to be innovating in the space. And we feel like we have a very fundamental role to play, and this is kind of like our calling in terms of our work. Yeah.
Let's end the game, and I'll see if I have any more questions.
Back post. Laying in weight. I need to know how to do another celebration.
Oh, you do that celebration?
Not on, like, I just want to do like backflips and stuff, but I don't remember how to do celebrations anymore. And he's gone. Right area, right time. Style.
I said I wasn't going to cross my legs earlier, and I did. That's why all of this is happening. I have been made an item of ridicule. he's doing custom celebrations. Wow.
It's still early now. You will still give me.
Let's go, boys. Come on, UCT.
Well done, Tibo.
So close. All right. So what makes you guys different from other Agritech companies?
I think largely a lot of people are trying to figure out how to do, and these things are important to fix the value chain, but like insurance, inputs, advisory. But if you're not a value chain player and you can't fully verticalize, you're missing out on capturing like some of the full value. So agriculture is a big market, but what's important is not the size of the market, it's the size of the market you can capture. So because our model is integrated, we can still do all of those other things that other people do, but with a higher level of trust and a higher level of stickiness, which in the end is why a lot of people they hear smallholder farmers and they're like, oh, they get worried. But because we have a very sticky product, then we're less worried about loyalty.
Why? I tried.
You're welcome.
This is so unfair. The game was rigged. Actually, no, that's not my story. My story is that, you see, the best found out talents don't know how to play FIFA because they are busy.
I don't know how to play FIFA.
What did I say? That's why I'm losing.
What did I say from the beginning?
If I was good at this, you have to question
What did
my
I say from the
credentials.
beginning? I said I don't play FIFA. I'm not good.
I know.
I said from the
You
start.
have to question my credentials. But yeah, it's been really fun talking with you about Releaf. Very insightful for me. We talked a bit, and this is just in the last part, about how you hire. I said something interesting, which I'd like if you could like share. So how do you hire at Releaf?
Yeah, I think it changes as you go. So in the early stages, you want to focus on like raw talent, speed of learning, and attitude, and like connection to the mission. The reason for that is if you just hire for experience, let's say Releaf was going to be this B2B SaaS marketplace, and I hired some very experienced B2B SaaS person. In 2 months, we pivot. What's that person going to do? Yeah. One, very high drag on your payroll. Two, they want to do things one way. They don't want to be open to learning. And so if someone's very committed to a mission, like I said, be stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the details. That person can move and change. Like, super lucky that our first employee, Deji Jayoba, was super early at Andela. And when he joined Releaf, he was, one of the software engineers. But Deji has done everything in the company. Yeah. Deji has run manufacturing. Wow. This is somebody that just used to spend time coding, run factory. Deji has done field expansion with our sourcing team. He's run the sourcing team, meeting many tons of palm nuts sourced. Now he's switching back into really his fundamental working on site. But because he has all these operational insight because he's actually done it. He can take his software background and make really good products. But someone like Deji is like the perfect early hire, right? He's the Swiss Army knife. He just gets it done. So in the early stages, yeah, you want to hire for that type of person. Honestly, when you begin to scale up, and it needs to, instead of trying to learn how to do everything from first principles, there are just some things that people already figured out, and you need to get a much more experienced person. Maybe like someone like Peter, who runs our manufacturing department. You know, he comes from Unilever, was country manager at Coke before. You know, he just understands this. These are the things that should be in place. Let me put them in place. And so it kind of changes, and your ability, even as a founder and as a leader, to paint the vision, get the right people in the right seats, and keep them there. And increasingly, that becomes a challenge here. Keep them there is a superpower that no founder can get to scale without. Because at the end of the day, in this order, you need to take care of your people will take care of your customers will take care of your profits. If you get any of those things in the wrong order, it actually you won't get to where you need to be. So you really need to be intentional about bringing in the right people, building the right culture, and keeping them happy, because people, customers, profits.
I'm taking that. People, PCP.
Yeah,
Goodness.
nice one.
People, customer, profits.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've come to the end of this. For you, I'll still be picking his brains. That's not like so, but thank you so much for agreeing to do this. This has been very insightful for our viewers. Looking forward to all the interesting stuff from Releaf Lazarus. Till next time, I am Hachi, and this is Zero to Scale.
See you guys later.
This is the market. The market has humbled me. Right? I'm going to take this experience. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to come back stronger. Right? Watch out for my 2.0.